I've been using smartphones for a long time. Back in school, I used my mom's Samsung Galaxy Young, Gioni S5.1, and subsequently her Samsung Galaxy J5 Prime. It's fair to say that I saw Android develop into the operating system it is today, from version 4.0 Jelly Bean to the very recent Android 13. As a tech enthusiast, the possibilities of Android always intrigue me more than the actual user experience. And while the user experience has indeed improved, the possibilities still remain endless. One such possibility is custom ROMs. You've probably heard of them. In one sentence, a custom ROM is a customized version of your smartphone operating system. Now, I love custom ROMs. It's a liberating feeling to be able to not only control everything on your device, but to be able to tweak it to its fullest potential. Whether it was flashing Creed OS on my mom's old Galaxy Young to make it perform better, or just flashing a custom ROM on my newer devices for the sake of a different UI experience. Custom ROMs have always allowed me to do whatever I want, however I want with my devices. And in all these years of flashing custom ROMs, I've noticed that even the people who actually flash ROMs know very little about this interesting subculture of the Android community, myself included. When my friends would ask me what exactly a custom ROM was and why I flashed it, it became very clear I hadn't really thought about it that much. So I set out on a journey of learning what exactly custom ROMs are and what the terminology really means and how they are beneficial so that you don't have to. I also realized it would be impossible for you guys to fully understand and comprehend the vastness of this concept in just one video. So I decided to divide this video into two parts. One, a general explainer video, this one, and two, a more in-depth look at the world of custom ROMs, the users, the developers, and everything in between. So join me as I embark on this magnificent journey to understand how to Now, I know you're here because you want the absolute simplest of explanations to the technobabble that typically surrounds topic like this. So, I'm here to make it easier for you. Before we begin talking about what custom ROMs are, however, we need to first understand more about Android itself. Android is an open source operating system that was bought by and is now maintained by Google. When I say open source, I mean that the source code or the base code of the operating system is available online without any legal implications. Anyone with coding experience can contribute to the project. If the change is deemed as beneficial, Google, the owner of the code, will merge it into the source code. Another example of open source operating systems would be Linux, upon which Android is based, or for those who are really enthusiastic people, Temple OS, although the user experience and the user interface leaves much to be desired at this point. The opposite of this would be any other operating system, such as Apple's own iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, and then we have Microsoft's Windows. They are closed source, meaning their code is not publicly available. So now that we know the basics, let's return to the original question. What are custom ROMs? Well, a custom ROM, as the name suggests, is a customized version of the Android open source project, also known as AOSP, that may have more features than we have in stock Android. Now, I'd like to quickly address something. We call them custom ROMs, however, in reality, that couldn't be further from the truth. You see, ROM means read-only memory, and what you are flashing is in fact more closer to firmware than a ROM. A firmware, by definition, would be essentially the bridge between the user and the hardware of your device. So why call them ROMs? Well, this goes back to when gaming consoles did not have onboard memory, so they would be sold with physical chonkers of the game drives, and these chonkers were called ROMs, since you would only read the information on it and not actually change the information. And since they were hot swappable, meaning that you could swap out one ROM for the other, the Android enthusiasts began calling these custom modified Android operating systems as ROMs. So that answers what custom ROMs are. But why do they exist? Well, you see, the beauty of the Android open source project is that it's an open platform, meaning that anyone can come along and make their own flavor of the code. The fact that anyone can make their own version of the operating system means that there's dozens of first-party themes or skins of the operating system that phone companies make. For example, Samsung's One UI, Xiaomi's MIUI, or Vivo's FunTouch OS. These give users a plethora of choices, which also leads to our problem. What is Android's biggest strength also becomes its biggest weakness. Since there's so many devices with a variety of hardware choices and varying degrees of capabilities, it becomes impossible for companies to regularly release updates for their low-end smartphones or even their mid-tier smartphones. As a result, depending on what company's smartphone you use, you may get anywhere from 4 years of feature updates to abandoned development from the day of launch. This is where custom ROMs came in. When it became clear that the companies weren't capable of completely covering all of their devices, the community stepped in to do that work. People picked up various devices and took it upon themselves to ensure that those devices received updates as long as the hardware could support it. So 3 to 4 year old smartphones became capable of running the latest versions of Android. And all of that without having to wait for the company to step up. All of this was, is, and will continue to be done for free by the community. Yes, you heard me right, free. I'll talk more about this community in the next video, but I just want to say that the people who develop these custom ROMs, the people who maintain these ROMs for these various different devices, and more importantly, the people who test these ROMs on their own devices for the sake of the community, all for free by the way, I just want to tell you that you guys are the absolute best, and thank you so much. You have my utmost respect at the very least. So as stated above, at its core, custom ROMs were made to compensate for the lack of effort from companies. However, today it has grown into what I can only describe as one of the world's best cults. An assortment of ROMs exists today. ROMs such as Lineage OS aim to provide a very simple and basic Android experience, while ROMs like Graphene OS provide an extremely privacy-focused experience by removing every trace of Google and other data tracking services and replacing them with free and open source alternatives that not only provide you the same user experience that these other softwares do, but do that without tracking you or stealing your data. Meanwhile, ROMs like Pixel Experience and Pixel OS aim to emulate the software experience that Google's Pixel smartphones have, complete with all of the Pixel exclusive features such as maybe unlimited photos backup or maybe the call screening feature via Google Assistant. Other ROMs such as Corvus OS, CR Droid, Derpfest, etc. aim to provide a stock Android experience with a lot of customizability. We also have ROMs like Fresh ROM, which is a stripped down version of One UI, which is made by Samsung. So what is the answer to why are custom ROMs? Well, they were created by the community to cater to the needs of the community. Now that we know what are custom ROMs, we also know why are custom ROMs. Has anyone ever thought of asking, how are custom ROMs? I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. That's on me. Should you flash custom ROMs?
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Well, the answer, unsurprisingly, depends upon you. Do you like how your smartphone is? Would you like to replace your smartphone operating system with a custom version of that operating system with a particular set of features that you would like to use? If the answer to the first question is yes, then that's fine. Knowledge is power. However, if your answer to the first question is no, and the answer to the second question is a resounding yes, then buckle up my friend, because you are in for a ride. Now, I do have to say, that it's not quite as simple as just downloading a ROM from the Google Play Store. There's a lot of factors that can impact whether or not you can flash a custom ROM on your device, ranging from how active your device's community is to whether or not the ROMs available for your device are stable enough. Majority of the times, the reason for the lack of development or stability of ROMs can be chalked down to the companies not releasing the source code for the kernels and various other software files for their devices. Although sometimes developers do tend to skip certain devices or abandon certain devices, mostly because these devices might not be as remarkable as they had expected. After all, if these developers are to invest tremendous amounts of time and energy to develop ROMs for a device for free, might I add, the device best be worth it. And the community response also is a key factor. In case you wish to look for ROMs for your device, you can go on Telegram and search for a device's support groups, read the rules and all available documentation, watch videos on YouTube related to your device. For example, Poco F4 custom ROMs, my device, that's how I would search for that. Or Google your device's XDA page and under the ROMs and development section. For example, searching on Google by saying Poco F4 XDA. Watch these videos and make your decision. As for how to flash a custom ROM, well, that's a topic for another video. And what custom ROM do I use? Well, I personally use Corvus OS. I admire the perfect balance between stability and customizability that this ROM tends to have over multiple devices. In fact, I've also interviewed the lead developer, Mr. Ritesh Bujumdar, and it was entirely out of curiosity to understand the working about this community as well as to gain an insight into the what and the why of their work. I've linked the video here as well as in the description below, so definitely check it out. So what did we learn from this deep dive into the subculture of Android community? Well, for starters, we learned about custom ROMs, which are customized versions of Android that people install on their devices to either emulate the stock Android experience or elevate their existing experience. We learned that they exist because people tend to be unhappy about how their devices function and might want to make the most out of their device's hardware. We also learned that these ROMs are developed by regular people like you and I for absolutely free, and that these people deserve all the love and support that they can get. If you were even slightly moved by what I've presented in this video, then please do embark on your own journey into the extraordinary world of custom ROMs. I am Artman and thank you for joining me on this journey to pimp my tech.